Good morning, everyone. Father Jim here. This is Holy Week, that week leading up to Easter, and in which we kind of share in Jesus' sense of foreboding at his impending death. It already feels like such a very different Easter and Holy Week to me, as I'm sure it does for you, that we cannot come together and celebrate in the church. Bishop Anthony has asked all priests do pray Mass for the people of the parishes, even in their empty churches. So Father John and I have been doing that these last 2 weeks, but I just want to say it feels so odd, and I have this ache as I look out over the empty pews and think of all of you who want to be there and can't. I miss you, and I'll be missing you this Easter as I once again pray Mass for you and pray that the joy of the risen Jesus will be in you and with you, even though we can't be there face to face. So how are you going to pray during this Holy Week? I invite you to find the ways that will help you to really get in touch with the events of Jesus' death and his resurrection. On the parish webpage, and there's links to that below, there are ways to help you pray at home, such as Stations of the Cross and a Good Friday afternoon ritual you can do, especially one you can do with younger children. For Stations of the Cross, there's one of those on the webpage, but you might have access to another one. There's plenty available. And I invite you maybe even go for a walk on Good Friday. I find telegraph poles a great way to do the Station of the Cross. Walk to a telegraph pole, pray one station. Walk to the next pole, pray the next. And at the very last couple of stations, look at the telegraph pole and imagine this is the cross which Jesus hung, because it would have been a big, thick piece of wood that Jesus was nailed to. So that might be a way in which you can pray the stations and pray Good Friday this year. On Holy Thursday night, spend some time in your own quiet prayer, perhaps with a glass of wine and a piece of bread, and look at them. And as you eat and drink, think of what Jesus must have been thinking and feeling as he faced his own death the next day. I invite you on Thursday and Friday and Saturday to maybe do some fasting. Make these quieter days so that Sunday can be a day of joy and feasting. Make sure you eat some Easter eggs, have some chocolate, and celebrate that Jesus is alive and risen in our hearts. We don't have to be in the church building for that to be true. It is always true that Jesus has risen, and this is the good news that can fuel and sustain our lives, even in very challenging times like ours. So what's happening in the church? The parish bulletin has a couple of good news stories of things that have happened recently. There's been baptisms, there's going to be a wedding next week. It's amazing how even in this time, we keep on doing these wonderful moments of people's lives. The week after Easter was to be our big celebration of the 100th anniversary of our parish. Bishop Anthony was going to come, and he still wants to come and pray Mass for us in the church, and we're going to live stream it out to you. So the next weekend's bulletin, which you'll get a couple of days before Sunday, will have the details of where you can access that. Also, for the Easter liturgies, there's details in our parish webpage of how you can access the cathedral's live stream of Mass as well. But looking ahead, there's a couple of new things we want to try and do. I'm going to experiment with how to do an interactive liturgy of the word via Zoom. Now, I've never done this before, so we're going to try it with a smaller group of people the first weekend. But then if it works, if we work the technology out and find a format that we can actually do, which is not just you watching me on a screen, but something people can interact with at home, then we'll try and roll it out to more people. And Zoom's a great tool, which I believe we can use with potentially hundreds of people. So that's what we're going to try and do in the next few weeks. Gail Gill and I are also looking at how we can bring forward some of the adult faith formation programs from later in the year and bring them to now. Some of the small group programs, the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius, and some of our book clubs. They're things we could do with 6 or 8 people at a time via Zoom. So they might be ways that we can continue the life of the parish to deepen and tend to our prayer life and our intellectual life in new ways. Some of the bigger events like our talks with Bishop David, they'll have to be put off till later in the year, as is Alpha. But we're going to find ways to deepen our prayer lives together. So God bless you. May it be a prayerful and solemn few days of Holy Week for you, and a joyful, wonderful Easter. I'll post my Easter YouTube message in the next couple of days. So God bless you and your family.